These are in listen-only mode.
Okay, greetings everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started here. I hope everybody can hear me. My name is Todd McGee. I am filling in for Jessie Byer, our president, who is a little bit under the weather today, so she has asked me to step in for her. So today's webinar, we're very excited to have some great presenters. It's one of our Best of Class Winner Showcase publications with market appeal. And this is going to be the Kitsap County Public Works Communications team. It's going to share with us how using conventional marketing strategies in your outreach increases reach and engagement for government publications. We have two presenters today. Erina Kong is the Public Information Specialist for Kitsap County. She is responsible for graphic design and is the Creative Director for Public Works Publications. She has over 10 years of experience designing and creating branding and marketing solutions for private sector and nonprofit organizations. Doug Bear is the Public Communications Manager for Kitsap County, responsible for developing strategies to keep residents engaged and informed. He manages the county's communication channels, media relations, social media, and customer service call center. So we will get to them shortly. All right, now I'm going to show you a picture of those two, hopefully. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available to view online later. We'll be posting it on our website at NACIO.org. After the webinar, you will receive a notice asking you to complete a webinar evaluation survey. Thank you in advance for completing this survey. Your feedback is important to us. Tips reviewing the webinar are quite simple. The questions box and buttons are on the right side of the webinar window. Just type them in there, and we will try to get to them at the end, but we can also try to get to them as we go along if we need to. This box can collapse so that you can better view the presentation. Unhide the box, click the arrows on the top left of the corner of the panel. If you're having technical difficulties, please send us a message via the question box on your right, and we'll reply and try to help you out privately with this issue. So without further ado, let's get into the Best of Class winners from our Awards of Excellence. Best of Class for annual reports was the Citizen Reappraisal Guide 2017 from Buncombe County Government in Buncombe County, North Carolina. In North Carolina, the law requires counties to reappraise all real property at least once every 8 years. Real property includes land, structures, and improvements. The county wanted to communicate this to citizens outside of the normal way of mailing them a notice to be on the lookout for tax appraisals around their properties. We wanted to create a booklet with the who, what, where, when, and why to give them a better understanding of the process. Included are property tax facts, things they should know about their property tax, what the incorporated districts and fire districts are, what the process will entail, a Q&A with the tax director and real estate manager, an easy-to-navigate table of contents and glossary, and beautiful pictures of the county throughout to make it more aesthetically pleasing. Now, our Best of Class in the brochures multi-page booklets is to Kitsap County Public Works Outreach Team, which is what we're going to hear from today. So I'm not going to steal their thunder. You'll be hearing a lot about them in the next, during their presentation. The Best of Class in Publications goes to the Employee Benefit Program Guide for the County of Summit, Ohio, and their Department of Communications. Best of Class in Writing went to James, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, James Scalziti of Cook County, Illinois, for about the report 1 year of marriage equality in Cook County. Before marriage equality was the law of the land throughout the United States, Illinois in 2014 became the 18th state to allow gays and lesbians to legally marry. But Cook County was ahead of the rest of the state, opening legal marriage to all on February 21st, 2014. 1 year later, we looked back at the full year of marriage equality in the county with a comprehensive analysis of how many same-sex couples had been married and extensive demographic profiles of these couples, including where they were from, their age range, occupations, and a breakdown of where in Cook County they lived. This effort involved writing data analysis and graphics, coordination from the communications staff, map making from the GIS department, data generation from IT and vital records departments. Staff took facts and graphics from the report and generated many social media posts throughout the process. So congratulations to them. Best of class in graphic design went to this very neat revenue caps infographic produced by David Garcia and Joel Nyleen with the Texas Association of Counties. This was a graphic about where do your property tax dollars go. Best of class in photography was a King Tide Impacts Broward County 2015, and this went to Paul Kraszewski from Broward County, Florida. So congratulations to Paul. Best of class audiovisual productions goes to another Florida winner. I got a bad feeling that our Florida winners may not be on the line today because they may be preoccupied with Hurricane Matthew coming up the street. But these are the single stream recycling PSAs created by Eric Gill in St. Lucie County, Florida. And they wanted to create a series of PSAs that focused on what goes into the bins as well as what residents should not put in the bins. Another winner from Florida was the Special Projects Centennial Citizens from the Office of Public Communications, Cindy Malin. 2015 was Broward's 100th year, so they engaged in targeted outreach to identify 100-plus-year-old residents so they could be recognized and honored by the community as part of the Centennial celebration. So in addition to celebrating Broward County's 100th birthday, this event was about creating memories and providing an opportunity for the community to honor local elders. And then our final winner from the Best of Class Electronic Communications goes to Broward County, Florida, Andy Royston and Jody Lashinsky for their Cultural Quarterly Flipbook, which is a fine arts magazine published on the website of the Broward Cultural Division. This entire magazine is created and produced in-house by the Broward Cultural Division creative staff from concept to print. So that's a very good publication, and they have won a couple of awards before. So those are all of our Best of Class winners, and then just for everyone to know that the Best of Show winner, which is the overall winner, did go to Eric Gill in St. Lucie County for his single stream recycling PSAs. Check out our website to see the full list of winners. And then you can also find links to other webinars on our website and lots of good information. So without further ado, we're going to get to the feature of today's webinar, which is the Kitsap County presentation, Publications with Market Appeal. So I'm going to turn things over to Doug, and hopefully y'all will hear Doug speaking here shortly, as soon as I can remember how to unmute his microphone. Okay, Doug, you should be good.
I am. Thank you very much, Todd. Are you able to see the slides?
It still says waiting to view your screen.
Oh, well, how about now?
There we go.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Todd, for your generous introduction. My name is Doug Bear. I'm the Public Communications Manager for Kitsap County. I've been with the county about 30 years, and we had a unique opportunity about 2.5 years ago. Both of our designers moved on to greener pastures, so we had an opportunity to hire new designers. And when I looked at how we might approach that, one of my interests was hiring designers from the commercial art world who could bring some of that market appeal that's commonly used in marketing and producing publications and documents from the commercial side and apply that to how we design and communicate as government. And a good example is this particular publication. Years ago, this was what our WasteWise Living newsletter looked like. And frankly, it's not bad, but it does look like most every other publication we ever put out as government. It has a very blocky, cold feel, and what we were looking for in this particular publication was an opportunity to use some of the conventional marketing techniques that are used in commercial design and apply them to the information we wanted to distribute as a county. So I am going to turn this over to Erina at this point, and she's going to talk a little bit about the different methodology we used to change this publication to increase our reach and engagement with our citizens. Erina?
Hi, thank you very much, everyone. My name is Erina Kong, and in case I do sound a little funny to anyone, I am originally from Australia, born and raised, so yes, you are hearing some kind of an accent. And if at any point that it's a little troublesome to understand what I'm saying, just shout out, and I will. I'm not quite sure what I'll do, but I'll try to Americanize, I guess. So the first thing I want to talk about is the AIDA principle, and this is a term and approach that's commonly attributed to American advertising, and it was created by a sales pioneer called E. St. Elmo Lewis, and it's really one that anyone can apply to all aspects of a publication or a copy, and it's really great to just ask these couple of questions for anything that's going out to the public. And the AIDA principle is an acronym that breaks down to attraction, interest, desire, and action. So in terms of the publication of WasteWise Living, what we did to attract is use just one large graphic, and that's so that we could get maximum impact and create a single focal point. We had this publication delivered to all of our residents in Kitsap County, and so with mail distribution, what we wanted to do was really stand out in the mail that you were going to get, and really attract the audience so that they're encouraged to pick it up and really see what it's about too. And just as a side note that I wasn't planning on talking about, but one thing that we have known is that people actually didn't know that it was a county publication when they read it, and you see the logo's a little, kind of little on the inside, but we didn't focus on that, and people, read it and were actually thought, oh, this is really unusual for a county, and this is totally not what I expected. And so it was actually really, it kind of felt tricked in a way, and that was kind of fun at the same time, because not everyone really wants to read county publications, but they felt that this was different, and it looked like something that would be produced elsewhere by a commercial agency or business. So a lot of people tend to try to put in a lot of the photos, especially in government. You could probably see from that example from the first where we came from, and just using a lot of different images, and say for the WasteWise example, you can see on the cover there that we do look at 4 different topics that are teaser articles, and so people might be inclined to say, okay, well, let's show a picture for each one of those, but what you're actually doing by doing that is detracting from the focus and making it less impactful, and less likely that someone may just get attracted to that publication. Also, what we've tried to do is really come up with a colorful image that really creates a positive feel, so that, again, we want people to think it will be a fun read and something that is going to be kind of non-invasive, I guess, in a way. So moving on to the second point of interest, a prospective reader will really only have 3 seconds to consider whether they want to read on or not. And so that's where those little teaser subjects come around the side. So we want to give them a reason for people to keep on reading and to draw people in. And so you can see from that little image on the top that we've really used action words, and that gives energy to the topic and really alludes to what you will find inside. Thanks, Doug. So the next point is desire, and so this really speaks to more of the content in there, and we want to give people a reason to keep on reading. And so what we want to do is focus on what you think the customer wants to know, and not what some content experts think they need to know. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide, as it pertains a little bit more to the content. And then the last point is action. So ultimately, we want to encourage action. So we want to answer the, where do I go to find out more? Where do we go if we want to participate? Or who do we ask if we have a question? And so essentially what we're looking for is a call to action. And again, I'll expand on that on the next slide as it pertains more to the content. But four key considerations that we took into account when we were looking at doing this is to determine the target audience. And Doug is going to talk a little bit more about the survey work that we do. But what we do know is that our readership is 76% female with this publication, and 45% are actually between the ages of 50 to 64. And as you can see, the publication does skew to look a little bit more feminine. And with the lead picture on the front, you can, we've put on a girl who's holding some recycling cans. So this resonates more to families or mothers. And that is because we feel that females are more likely to be the household decision makers on such things as recycling and green cleaning, which are the types of content that we actually have inside there. Another thing that we've done is to keep the look consistent. And I think a lot of non-designers make use of a lot of different elements. They use a lot of different fonts, a lot of different colors, and try a lot of different styles in the same publication. It's almost like a kid in the candy store where you put someone in front of a cool tool, they have all these things and all these fun aspects and play with that you want to try them all. But what that ultimately does is convey confusion and indecision. So what you really want to do is pick a few key fonts and colors and really stick to those. And what I've also done too is picked out heading colors of the pictures that are associated with that article. So that way it also combines that element. It looks like there's more association between the two of them. So next, we use simple and spacious layout. And as you can see from the front, again, that the old newsletter, we've really had a huge change in concept from the first one to what we have now. And this is a little harder to kind of get support of because, when you come to your managers and say, we just want to use one page to get people in, we're not going to have any content on there that's, going to create any value. But what it does is to create value and actually getting people to pick it up. So, and it's a challenge to use white space as well. And white space is important because what it does is that it gives the article time to breathe, and it looks less intimidating to read, and it looks less work. And again, that's sometimes hard because when some managers see white space, they see it as an opportunity to put more text in. And so that is just something that, we encourage not to, and it's always a little bit of a battle when we're talking to people that aren't, marketing inclined or aren't designers.
Erina, I thought maybe what we could do is go ahead and just page through here, and you can talk a little bit more about that white space. And this is the electronic version of our publication. So I think you can see that we kept consistent with fonts. We used white space a lot through this document. Erina, is there anything you'd like to talk about?
Yeah. So, even on top of this cover story on that right-hand side where it says, sorry, Doug, can you turn back to the other page? No, inside.
That one?
No, oh, there you go. So you see that cover story, where does it go? People be inclined to push that all the way up to the top and to not have that leading, little teaser cover story, and it just makes it look cluttered and it makes it look really lengthy. And yes, it is kind of a lengthy article in the first place, but it's not that intimidating that you don't think you can get through it in 5 or 10 minutes. So, and that's kind of what we want to do, is to give just some space. It just really helps to clean it up and to make it look that it's not intimidating, and it could be like a fun read.
All right.
Yeah. So and on that, we also know that that copy accompanied with graphics is 50% more likely to be read. So we associated an image with every single article, and then we also used articles that were clean and cluttered. And the best images to use are ones that tell the story. And again, this is maybe an argument that we sometimes have, is that you don't have to be literal with your photos. And so we did have an article in there, and just for example, about recycling pot plants, like the pots that plants come in.
Yeah, you got to be careful. This is Washington. You can't talk about recycling pot.
So we have an article in there that is encouraging people to that they can actually put those pots in the recycling bin, but also other opportunities to that they can, you know, reuse it and do some other cool things with those pot plants. But you know, we had this thing where, you know, one of the content experts really wanted to use an actual pot that was empty because that's how they wanted to receive it. And you know, and what we want to do is actually tell the story. So we want to show it with a plant in there because A, it's more attractive, and then it's also attention grabbing. But it's but you know, we need to let the audience kind of come up with their own. You know, obviously you're not going to throw it out with a plant in there. So you know, not being too literal, and I think that's something that a lot of, you know, we come across, that people want to show exactly what it is or exactly what rubbish looks like, but you know, that's not all. You know, we encourage against that because, you know, by using a better image, you're probably going to get a better result than being too literal. So the next point is to step back and take a look. And it's really hard to see your design as you design it on a computer up close. And so occasionally what I like to do is just push back like 3 or 4 feet away from the screen and take a look at what your eye is drawn to and have an order of where you want someone to focus. What do you want them to see first? And then work down from there. And what do you see second? And is that what you want them to see second? So it really just kind of creating an order of what you want people to notice, and then using fonts and size and color to really get that result. And additionally, I always like to print things out because when you print things, it looks a lot different than when it's on the screen. And so actually having that working publication in your hand, you can notice a lot of little different things, like things don't line up, or maybe one article kind of looks funny or the other, or it's not balanced, or you don't have enough of that white space. So all that is really handy and easier to take in when you have that printed and you're actually flicking through it in your hand. So going to content now. So what we tried to do is to use a lot of attention-grabbing headlines and subheads. And again, especially in government, we like to tell the reader what the article is exactly about, like how to recycle your pot plants or the Buckland Hill closure. So instead, we try to be a little bit more creative. We played on the words and are a little bit, you know, try to be a little bit more tongue-in-cheek in it. And again, this is another case of it doesn't literally have to explain the article, and that's what the subtitle is really for. But by being a little bit more creative, you can draw attention and give a greater sense of fun and also pique curiosity from the readers to learn more. So the next point is to make sure you use plain language. And this is a lot easier for me because I've only worked for Kitsap County for a little over 2 years, and so if I don't understand it, then probably neither will the majority of your audience. So that's really handy to keep in mind, and if you can, to give it to someone else that's not involved with the program, or someone that doesn't know anything about the county, to take a look through and to read it and see if they get what you want them to get out of it.
If I could just add, Erina, Washington is one of the 2 states that have adopted the federal plain language standards that were passed into law a couple years ago. And so by law, we're required to use plain language. So we do spend a lot of time working with content, because generally your content experts speak in a language that they're familiar with speaking. So, and we work a lot for instance, in the road department, we have a lot of engineers, and so when we ask for content, they have a tendency to write content the way they would write content if the audience was other peers. So that ability to edit content to bring it down to plain language standards, and there's a lot of different tools you can use to do that, is really important, because ultimately you end up with content that is easy to understand. In short, the law says that someone should be able to read, understand, and do what you ask them to do the first time they read an article. So we're real conscious of making sure that we use plain language in our publications.
So along those lines too, is that we like to use a lot of acronyms, and you know, acronyms are really hard because even at the best of times we can't even remember the ones that we're supposed to know. So you know, keeping acronyms to a minimum is also important, I feel. And if you're going to use a technical term and you need to use it, then be sure to explain it and not assume that it's commonly known. And what we do is, again, just coming back to Doug's point, is that we write at a 5th grade level. And while comprehension of our audience may be greater, what we want them to do is be able to get the message easily with very little effort. We want them to be able to pick up this publication on a Sunday morning and have a cup of coffee with it and just peruse and be able to understand and get the point in one go.
Well, I think a good example of that is the USA Today. It's the most read newspaper in the United States, largely because they use very plain language in their articles, and it's not a task to read the USA Today. It's designed such that you can take in each article. There's very few jumps to articles in the USA Today. So that plain language allows people, and particularly in a publication in which you want durability, a lot of my favorite reading material resides in one particular room in my house, and you don't often have the time to sit and read the entire magazine at that point. But if you design articles that could be taken out in pieces, that allows the reader to consume the information on their schedule rather than ours.
And as an initial note as well, so while we were kind of veering towards an older audience, but we also had people contact us to get extra copies for scout troops and classrooms, and we even had a mother contact us and say, this has been really great because it allowed me to sit with my daughter and read through it with her, and we talked about a lot of the concepts, and that was really fun to hear that. And doing that by keeping it simple, it's like it just makes it easier to be a little bit more versatile in our target audience. So moving on, ensure the tone of the article is similar and pleasant. So what we try to do here is really have used a conversational voice. We want to be more like having a conversation with your neighbor and they're coming over and telling you more about something that they're passionate about. And it's written in a tone that is really friendly and non-threatening. And we've made it we try to make it as fun of a read as possible with, sometimes dry content, but we try to make it fun and try to put a lot of questions in there and to keep it a little bit less static. And we try to keep our negative statements to a minimum, as, no one really wants to be told a whole bunch of don'ts. So we try to spin it positively, although we get the contents a lot of like, we don't want people to do this and we don't want people to do that, and so we try to make it a little bit more positive. And what we're doing is really telling the story and why we think it matters and letting the reader decide whether they do that or not, instead of telling them what they shouldn't or shouldn't be doing. Next, we have content, and we want to make sure that the content is useful. And this is a challenge when we work with the content experts, as Doug has alluded to. And they have a great passion for what they do, and sometimes they're very technically minded. And so while they may think that people want to know that a new bridge has 12-foot girders and it's 1 foot wider and it's going to be dug 6 foot into the ground, the reader's excitement for those details are probably not going to be the same. And so we really want to consider what it is that we want the reader to know, and then support it with why it's important and how does it impact them, or how they can use this information for themselves, and really distill the text into just the essential items. And that also allows for bigger graphics and more white space. That's moving to Doug.
Do you have anything else you want to add, Erina?
No.
I think it's really important, and we do spend a lot of time on the fundamental design. What's equally important is how you distribute that. And so we have a couple different distribution methods. We distribute it directly to 112,000 homes in Kitsap County by direct mail. In fact, this is an election year in Kitsap County, and one of the candidates that's running for commissioners, and this is a balance you're going to find in government. If you make things look good, people think it costs a lot of money to do that. We got an inquiry from a commissioner's candidate who wanted to know how much the contract was for the consultant that did this particular publication. And I explained to him that that was done in-house completely, all the design, layout, etc., and we used a service to distribute it by mail. It ended up, he estimated that, he said, well, I can guarantee you that was at least a $10,000 job. I said, no, contraire, it was about 33 cents per copy, including design, printing, and postage to place that in the mailbox. So again, the economy of scale, the ability to produce market methodology in your publications and having that in-house allowed us to produce this. Frankly, most people that pick up this publication will not believe, I didn't believe it when I first saw the figures, that that could be placed in each home in the county for 33 cents. But again, we have a great team of designers. We spent about somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000 to $5,000 on the design internally, probably another $3,000 in content, and then the rest was just the production costs. So again, being able to leverage your in-house capabilities certainly increases the opportunities you have to direct that to people. And Erina had mentioned that we left copies and people have asked for copies. Part of the design when we first met as an editorial board, part of our intent was to create a publication that has some durability. Because past surveys from this publication indicated that people like to keep this as reference material. So we designed it to have some durability, even in something as simple as not putting a date on the cover or that type of, I think we put it comes out annually, so we don't necessarily tie it to any particular date. But we left this in a lot of our local businesses, in lobbies, in all the counties, waiting rooms. And again, because it's designed, I've literally watched this happen. People will walk over to the literature kiosk, gaze through the kiosk, and invariably pick this up. And I think it's because of the design concepts that went into making this appeal to the average consumer that you almost, if you're looking at a bunch of different publications and this one's in it, this is the one that people pick up most frequently. And as you've seen earlier, we did do the whole thing as an electronic flip book, which is an incredible resource because you can then leverage active links within that publication so that if you want to send people to better or different information, you can capitalize on those links and send them there. So I think that electronic publication was great. It allowed us to put it on our web page and then to distribute it through some of the other channels that we currently have in our system. We use GovDelivery and we have about 20,000 subscribers to that service. So we send it through all them. We are active on Facebook, Flickr, and Nextdoor. So we posted electronic links to the flipbook there. The interactivity, again, you know, looking at part of the demographic, most people are computer literate now, and the ability to apply active links to the articles so that some of that more, Erina had a great analogy with Buckland Hill Bridge. Buckland Hill Bridge is on the busiest road we have in the county, and we had a one-year closure to that bridge, which was certainly inconvenient. And there was tons of detailed information about that. If somebody wanted to see what was designed in the bridge, or if they wanted to see what the bridge ends were going to look like, or they wanted to see the construction schedule or the bid or the cost, all that information was there. A lot of times we try to put that into articles rather than really what we wanted to tell people was we really appreciate the fact that you've been inconvenienced for a year and we're working really hard to get this project done. So the electronic flipbook gives you that opportunity to apply links to more information. I always liked Harper's Magazine, and for a while Newsweek was doing it, and our local Tacoma newspaper does it. You read the article, and if you want more information, there's a link that takes you to the AP feed or takes you to the longer article that before it was edited. So there's a lot of opportunities to add value to your publications when you take advantage of the electronic capability of producing that. And more, just as an overall strategic position, we are printing less and less publications. We are designing publications specifically for electronic distribution rather than paper distribution. It allows you to be a little more responsive. It allows you to correct an error if you notice it after you've printed 20,000 copies. And frankly, most of our residents seem to enjoy that ability to get this information either in the traditional hard copy or through an electronic device. And I talked a little bit about our social media posts and subscriber notification. We got an additional reach, probably in the neighborhood of somewhere between 400 and 500 people who read this publication who might not have otherwise read it. And the important thing about social media is not necessarily the fact that you posted it to social media, but when we talk about demographics, this particular publication we designed to that female in the 24 to 54 age group that's doing their home, which is great, and I think we accomplished our goals in that area. But when you use social media, that ability to retweet, to share, allows someone who might not have picked up the magazine or might not be interested in it to share that or to forward that post to somebody who they know that they will. We're currently doing a campaign for voter registration, and we're trying to reach a particular demographic that's difficult to reach, but social media does give you that ability to reach people who may know that demographic and may be able to get that information in their hands quicker and more effectively than you can. So I'm a big believer in the value of social media to enhance your ability to distribute your message. Again, we could do a whole webinar on how to do that well, and at the conference there was a lot of good presentations on how to really capitalize on that social media aspect. Okay. So we conduct a survey, and I think this is an important point to consider whenever you design a publication. We do what's called a scoping meeting, and part of that scoping meeting, before we actually sit down and design a project, we meet with all the principals and we talk about, who's your targeted demographic, what kind of results do you want out of this publication, and then we measure those results, and that information helps us to fine-tune future publications. So we have a survey in each edition, and from the 2015, our survey showed that 69% read the publication thoroughly and are likely to read the next issue. Frankly, I find that pretty an amazing statistic, because we don't really expect that someone will read it thoroughly, and in the question it was, did you read every article? To have 70% of your targeted demographic consume 100% of your publication, I think is a great success. But again, I think that talks back to that designing with market appeal. It's the same thing commercial advertisers do, and I've always said, even though we're government, we still have a product to sell. The message or the information is still, that's what we want to get into people's hands, and so conventional marketing and market appeal are and should be part of your design considerations. Over half of the people were likely to change their habits based on what they learned, and primarily in this publication, it is asking you to change your habits. Quit flushing things down the toilet, stop putting grease in the sewer. Again, but it's written in a way that it's not restrictive or authoritarian. Do not do this, do not do that, do not do this. Rather, it's written in a way that educates your reader and promotes them to rationalize or to change their behavior based on what they learned. Almost 3/4 of the recipients said direct to their home is the most effective way. This was kind of a little surprising to us, because even though I'm a baby boomer, I personally, sending them to my home is not necessarily the best way to get there. So we were a little surprised that people like that. In looking into that analytic a little deeper, that what they liked about it was the durability of the publication, and they liked it sent to their home because they want to keep it, and they want to hold on to it, and they want to have it available as a resource, which is just a tremendous compliment to the design and the content, that it would have that kind of durability. And then almost 3/4 of the recipients were female, a little over 3/4. That's what we targeted, that's what we expected, and that's what we got. I think another interesting thing is that 44% had additional comments. Surveys, when you have an open-ended comment at the end, generally you're not going to get a ton of response in there. And I've always found that if you get 18 to 20, 24% of people who have suggestions, ideas, or comments beyond the survey, that's a pretty good deal. What this suggests to me is that people were engaged with the publication, they enjoyed it, they wanted to make suggestions on what they wanted to see in the next issue, and those are all great guidelines from which you can then build this ongoing publication. So overall, I think we met all of our goals in this publication, but again, I think the success of this publication really starts with the design, continues with the content, and then is completed with the distribution methods that we have. And I think that's all we got, Todd. Oh, Todd. Todd. So if you have any questions at all about either the technologies or the particular approach, feel free to get a hold of either one of us. We also have no problem sharing some of our resources, and
there is that link on the bottom as well for anyone that wants to take a look at that publication. There's a bit.ly on the bottom, so the bit.ly/WWL15 for WasteWise Living 2015. Then you can go and take a look for yourself.
All right, and Doug and Erina, we've got a couple of questions right now if you have a couple of minutes to answer.
Sure.
The first one comes from Ruth Ritchie. She would like to know what was the cost difference between the two publications.
We didn't mail the last publication to every home. The actual cost of production was probably comparable, to be honest, unfortunately. If we can, let me go back to that publication. And that's a great point, because honestly, good publication doesn't necessarily cost more. It's taking into consideration some of these designs in the part. So for instance, in the publication on the screen now, it still requires the same work. Somebody had to lay this out, somebody had to develop the content, somebody had to choose pictures, so that the mechanism of creating a publication, the costs for that really don't change. What we really did was change the whole concept of how it's designed. So we didn't spend any money on, we use stock photos. We use ThinkStock as our stock photo. We do have some of our local photos also. We have a photographer. But again, the cost difference was negligible. The cost difference for the total project, the difference is mostly the cost of distributing it.
And if I could comment on that, yeah, because I remember having this kind of conversation, because we did come in, to the, this was initiation from the solid waste division, so we did have to go to the department head and say, this is what we want to do. And really, well, the difference between the old one and this one was only really an additional one full page, which is one whole sheet, but it's 4 pages. So it wasn't as big, and actually in subsequent issues, in the 2016 one, we actually even added another couple of pages. But the cost wasn't insurmountable, I want to say, and we're talking about maybe in total to get 110,000 out delivered to every single Kitsap home was something like 60 to 70,000 from memory, and the additional cost from that previous one was maybe about 5,000 or 6,000. So in the whole scheme of the project, it wasn't a lot, and I guess it's arguable, but the manager saw the benefits of what it would bring in to the cost, and so
and I think one other
it's great to have that support from the team and the management to believe in something like that.
When I think another consideration of cost that probably wasn't a dollar figure, but this did take more staff time to develop. Mm-hmm. We had a couple different meetings. We had an editorial board meeting, we had a progress meeting, and Erina worked real closely with the individual content developers. So the cost, and I think probably somewhere in that $4,000 to $5,000 range in additional staff resources, in the total cost of the project. But mostly the difference in cost was the distribution, though designing under these principles takes a little more time than what we put on it.
But Erina was a replacement for an existing staff person, correct?
She was, yes.
Okay. All right.
And again, if you did that, we were so embedded in the way we do things. Like I said, I've been here 30 years. Erina's predecessor had been here 15 or 16 years. We had really, neither of us were graphic artists by trade, but had just kind of, and this happens in a lot of places, you're the person who knows how to use a computer and put a picture on a flyer, so you suddenly become the graphic designer. That's why when I had that opportunity to replace staff, I went to management and said, I really think we need to look to the commercial sector and find a commercial artist that can bring that market appeal into our publications.
All right, well, that's great to hear. I'm getting ready to start a new job in Orange County, and I'm going to get to hire somebody. I'm definitely going to remember that concept.
Yeah, it's something we don't generally look for. Again, it goes back to Erina's point on content with content experts. Sometimes when we hire people to do these publications, we're hiring them based on their skills or their knowledge of government or how government works. I don't know, Erina. I don't remember asking Erina a single question about government. All my questions.
I have no experience with government before coming here, so I'm glad it wasn't.
So all of my whole desire in hiring Erina was to find somebody who had that commercial artist background who could bring those principles and techniques into our government publications.
All right, and we've got one more question from Jennifer Finch. She says, when you say you used Gov Delivery, is that to provide subscribers the link to the new issue, or is your flipbook built in and sent through Gov Delivery?
We sent a link. You can embed a flipbook in your Gov Delivery missives. It's pretty complicated. I'm a real strong advocate of Gov Delivery. It's been a great tool for us. So what we did is we sent to those people who had, we have a topic specific for WasteWise Living that they can subscribe to, but then we also have several topics in Public Works and Solid Waste Division, as well as countywide. We have a front page with 4,000 people that we send stuff to. So being able to leverage to those areas of interest through Gov Delivery is a great deal, but we did use a link rather than embed the flipbook.
Okay. And did you mention what software you use to create the flipbook?
We are an Adobe shop. We use the Adobe Creative Suite, which is primarily, this publication was InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator. Erina, did you use any other specialized software?
I didn't think so. I think that covers it. Yeah, just those three.
And it's a challenge because I can tell you that unfortunately not all of our peers get the support in software and staffing that we've been blessed with. Trying to create publications in Publisher or WordPress or those, the capabilities within the Adobe suite, the ability to literally lay out just like in the old days, you can move things, etc. Having the right tool certainly makes something like this easier to do.
All right, well, that sounds great. We do really appreciate Erina and Doug sharing their story on it with us today. We've got one more slide we wanted to show. We've got some upcoming webinars of interest to our members, so we want to make sure that we get those dates out on everybody's calendar. And you should be able to see them now. Jesse is doing a great job of lining up topics. We're going to really use a lot of the contest winners to get them to share their ideas and their thought processes on what they did to receive the recognition. So there's the dates right there. Also pay attention to the NACIO listserv, and we will have more information as we get closer to those dates. So as you can see, we've gone from quarterly to almost monthly. So we hope this will be a great boon to our membership. We are big believers in sharing knowledge. It makes us all stronger, and we're all here to serve the public. So again, thank you to Doug and Erina. Big thanks to Jessie as well, even though I know she's disappointed she couldn't be part of the webinar today. But we do appreciate what she's doing as president to make us a more stronger organization. So again, you will get a survey to follow up with. If you could, just give us, answer that survey. that'll help us get some ideas about some future topics to discuss. And if you have something that you would like to bring to the group, that would be great as well. Great time to let us know. So thank y'all for participating, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.